Coin collectors are scrambling for certain Roosevelt dimes, some selling for thousands. From silver dates to double dies and missing clad layers, the right dime can change everything. Don't spend it until you check it. The 1995 U.S. Roosevelt 1 dime is one of those coins that people see every day without ever imagining that it could be worth more than the 10 cents printed on it. It's tiny, silver-colored, light, and so ordinary that most of them end up in car cup holders, coin jars, or in the pockets of jeans forgotten in the wash. But among the millions of dimes struck in 1995, a small number left the mint with extraordinary mistakes, errors so dramatic, so unexpected, and so visually unmistakable that they have sold in major auctions for $60,850, $78,200, and even as high as $132,600. These rare survivors prove that even the most common coins can become valuable treasures. To understand how this happens, you have to picture the environment inside the U.S. Mint in 1995. Machines were running constantly. The economy was active, demand for coins was high, and the minting process was fast and continuous. Dies were replaced frequently, planchets were fed through mechanical systems at high speed, and every part of the process relied on perfect alignment. But even the smallest vibration, a misfeed, a worn die, or an unexpected mechanical hiccup could create an error. Most of these were caught by quality control, but a handful escaped unnoticed into circulation. That's how a 10-cent coin could end up being worth thousands, or even tens of thousands of dollars today. One of the most visually striking errors seen in 1995 is the off-center strike. When the planchet fails to seat correctly between the dies, the strike lands off-center, creating a coin where part of the design is missing and a blank crescent appears along the edge. A slight off-center strike doesn't add much value, but when the misalignment becomes extreme, 50%, 60%, or even 70%, the coin becomes a highly desirable collectible. A 1995 dime struck about 55% off-center with the date still visible sold for $5,250, and another with an eye-catching 70% off-center strike reached $9,300. These are the kinds of errors anyone can spot instantly. Another breathtaking mint mistake is the double strike error, where the coin receives 2 blows from the dies before being ejected properly. The second strike can land perfectly aligned, producing subtle doubling, or it can land wildly rotated or shifted, creating dramatic distortions. A 1995 dime with a bold rotated double strike sold for $18,750, while another with 2 nearly complete impressions, one sharply off the edge, sold for $23,200. These coins look almost like they're showing 2 different timelines of the minting process frozen in metal. But some of the most valuable and fascinating errors from 1995 involve the wrong planchet strike, where a dime design is struck onto a blank intended for a different coin. When this happens, everything changes: the color, the diameter, the weight, the thickness, and sometimes the look of the design itself. A 1995 dime struck on a copper penny planchet produced a reddish dime with incomplete details and a warped shape. That piece sold for $60,850, not only because of the rarity of the mistake but because the error is instantly recognizable. Yet even that impressive figure isn't the record. The highest-priced 1995 dime error ever to sell was a coin struck on a foreign planchet intended for an international denomination. The metal composition was different, the diameter was slightly off, and parts of Roosevelt's portrait spilled off the surface. The reverse lettering didn't fit entirely on the blank, leaving fragments of United States of America partially missing. That extraordinary piece, graded mint state by PCGS, sold for $132,600, making it one of the most valuable Roosevelt dime errors of the 1990s. Another type of error that gained attention from collectors in 1995 is the missing clad layer. Dimes consist of a copper core sandwiched between 2 layers of cupronickel. When one of these layers fails to bond, the coin can appear copper-colored on one side or even completely copper on both sides. A 1995 dime missing the clad layer on its reverse sold for $6,000, and another missing clad on both sides, a visually stunning mistake, sold for $12,800. These errors are easy to recognize, making them especially popular among collectors who enjoy coins with distinctive appearances. Struck-through errors also appeared in 1995. These occur when debris, metal fragments, cloth fibers, grease, or even loose minting materials interfere between the die and the planchet. The result can be deep depressions, smeared details, missing areas of the design, or unusual textures. A 1995 dime struck through a long metal shard sold for $2,550, while another struck through heavy grease that removed nearly half of Roosevelt's face sold for $1,950. These errors are interesting because each one is unique. No two struck-through coins look exactly the same. Errors caused by die damage also created fascinating pieces that year. Die cracks, die chips, and cuds appear when parts of the die fracture or chip away. These imperfections transfer to the struck coins as raised lines, blobs, or missing portions of the design. One 1995 dime with a large cud on the rim sold for $1,400, and another with a dramatic die crack across the portrait of Roosevelt brought $1,250. These may not reach the top auction values, but collectors love them because they show the mechanical wear and tear of minting in action. Then there are the broad strike errors, where the collar, the piece that normally shapes the rim, fails to engage. Without the collar in place, the metal spreads outward, creating a dime that is larger, thinner, and missing its normal edge. A broad strike 1995 dime in high mint state condition sold for $1,350, and another with both a broad strike and slight off-center effect reached $2,200. These coins almost look melted or stretched. Another subtle but collectible mistake from 1995 is the partial collar strike, where part of the rim forms correctly but another part appears flattened or distorted. A partial collar example sold for $980, proving that even smaller errors can attract impressive bids when the coin is well preserved. What makes these errors especially fascinating is that many of them circulated unnoticed for years. Dimes are so small and so common that people rarely examine them closely. A valuable wrong planchet dime could have been used to buy a parking ticket or dropped as change on a countertop. Someone may have handed a double-struck dime to a cashier without ever knowing the treasure they were spending. That's why 1995 dime errors still appear occasionally in old coin jars, inherited collections, or rolls of change that haven't been searched in decades. Anyone who finds a 1995 dime that looks unusual, strange color, missing details, distorted design, doubled elements, odd weight, or blank areas, should take a closer look. Something as simple as a copper tone or a slightly misaligned portrait could mean the coin is rare and valuable. But the most important rule in the world of error coins remains the same. Never clean the coin. Cleaning destroys original surfaces, removes natural luster, leaves scratches, and can cut a coin's value in half or worse. If a coin looks valuable, the best thing to do is place it in a protective holder and submit it to a grading service such as PCGS or NGC. Certification not only preserves the coin but significantly increases its credibility and resale value. The 1995 Roosevelt dime proves that even modern coins can hold extraordinary surprises. The most impressive errors from the year, wrong planchet strikes, dramatic double strikes, and extreme off-center strikes, have sold for $60,850 up to $132,600. Numbers that astonish anyone unfamiliar with the world of mint errors. So the next time you pick up a dime from 1995, take a moment and really look at it. Examine the edges, the lettering, Roosevelt's profile, the texture of the surface. What appears to be an ordinary 10-cent coin might actually be one of the rarest survivors of a minting accident, an overlooked treasure waiting decades for the right person to notice what it truly is. The 2001 U.S. Roosevelt 1 dime is one of the simplest and most overlooked coins in circulation. It's light, it's small, it's silver-colored, and most people never spend more than a second looking at it. Millions of these dimes move through hands every day, into vending machines, into cash registers, into coin jars, into pockets and purses, never drawing the slightest attention. But what almost nobody realizes is that among the countless 2001 dimes minted that year, a small number of them were born with rare and extraordinary errors. Errors so dramatic that a coin worth 10 cents has sold for $55,120 to as high as $126,400 in major auctions. To understand how such a modern, ordinary dime can reach those numbers, we have to step inside the U.S. Mint in the early 2000s. In 2001, the Mint was operating at full speed. Billions of coins were being produced. Machinery ran non-stop, dies were replaced frequently, and planchets were fed through the system by the thousands every minute. Even with advanced technology, the constant pressure of mass production makes mistakes inevitable. Most errors get caught and destroyed, but every once in a while one slips out unnoticed. And when it survives the process, circulates for years and eventually surfaces, it becomes a treasure point. One of the clearest types of errors found in 2001 Roosevelt dimes is the off-center strike. When the blank planchet isn't placed correctly under the dies, part of the design appears shifted, leaving a large empty area on the coin. Most mild off-center strikes aren't extremely valuable, but when the design is more than 50% off and the date is still visible, the price can rise sharply. A 2001 dime struck 60% off-center sold for $4,750, while another with a stunning 70% off-center strike and a fully visible date reached $8,900 at auction. These errors are bold and visually obvious, making them favorites among collectors. Another dramatic and highly collectible error from 2001 is the double strike. This occurs when a dime receives one strike, fails to eject, and is struck again. The second blow can be aligned perfectly with the first or completely misaligned. Misaligned double strikes are the most valuable because they show overlapping images, distorted shapes, doubled lettering, and repeated dates. A 2001 dime double struck with a 25-degree rotation on the second strike sold for $12,800, while another with two nearly complete impressions offset magnificently sold for $19,600. These coins look distorted, almost surreal, but they are perfect examples of mechanical failure captured in metal. But the most valuable error by far, the one that shocks even seasoned collectors, is the wrong planchet strike. This occurs when a dime is mistakenly struck on a planchet meant for a different denomination or even a foreign coin. It's one of the rarest types of mint errors, especially in the modern era. One of the most famous examples is a 2001 dime struck on a copper-plated zinc penny planchet. The coin appeared copper-colored instead of silver, and the design didn't fit correctly. This unusual piece sold for $55,120. But the record belongs to a 2001 dime struck on a foreign planchet, believed to have been intended for a coin slightly smaller than a US dime. Because of the size mismatch, Roosevelt's portrait was incomplete, the date was partially missing, and the rim looks irregular. With its unusual metallic tone and off-size dimensions, this dime became one of the most valuable modern US errors ever sold, reaching $126,400 at a major auction. Another fascinating error seen in 2001 is the missing clad layer error. Modern dimes are made of a copper core sandwiched between layers of cupronickel. When one of the outer layers is missing, the coin appears copper-colored on one side, or on both sides if the error is severe. A 2001 dime missing its clad layer on the reverse sold for $6,400, while another missing both clad layers, leaving it entirely copper-toned, sold for $11,200. These errors are especially popular because they are extremely noticeable to the naked eye. The year 2001 also produced several broad strike errors, which happen when the coin is struck without the restraining collar that shapes the rim. Without the collar, the dime spreads outward, becoming wider and slightly distorted. A broad strike 2001 dime in mint state sold for $1,550, while another, combined with a slight off-center, reached $2,650. Mechanical stress and worn dies also gave rise to die cracks, die breaks, and cuds on some 2001 dimes. A large cud, caused by a broken piece of the die that results in a raised blob of metal, sold for $1,450, while a dime with a dramatic die crack running across Roosevelt's head sold for $1,050. These may not reach five figures, but every example is unique and highly collectible because it reveals the exact condition of the mint equipment at the moment the coin was produced. Another subtle but valuable error from 2001 is the partial collar strike. This occurs when the coin is only partially held in place during striking. One side of the rim appears normal, while the opposite side looks crushed or expanded. A 2001 dime with this error, graded MS66, sold for $1,250. What makes 2001 dime errors especially intriguing is that this isn't ancient coinage. These coins circulated widely in pockets and cash registers for years before collectors began to pay attention. Many of the rare errors weren't discovered until people started hunting through old change jars, inherited boxes of coins, or rolls from local banks. That means there may still be undiscovered treasures out there today, hiding in ordinary places. Anyone who finds a 2001 dime that looks unusual should take a closer look. An odd color, an oddly shaped rim, a doubled image, missing design elements, or a huge blank space could be a sign of a valuable error. But before making any decision, there is one essential rule everyone should follow. Never clean a coin. Cleaning removes original surfaces, damages mint luster, and destroys a huge portion of its value. A dime that might sell for thousands at auction could drop to a few dollars if it has been cleaned. The best thing to do is place the coin in a soft holder and send it to PCGS or NGC for professional grading and authentication. A certified coin becomes far more valuable because buyers trust the grade and know the error is genuine. The 2001 Roosevelt dime proves something important. Even in an era of advanced digital machinery and automated quality control, minting errors still occur, and when they do, they can transform a tiny 10-cent coin into a high-value collectible. The rarest and most desirable errors of the year, wrong planchet strikes, extreme double strikes, and dramatic off-center strikes, have brought prices ranging from $55,120 to $126,400, placing them among the most valuable modern dime errors ever recorded. So the next time you come across a 2001 dime, don't just toss it aside. Look at it carefully. Inspect the rim, the portrait, the thickness, the color, the alignment of the design. You might not be holding a normal dime at all. You might be holding a survivor of a once-in-a-lifetime minting mistake. A tiny metal treasure whose true value is waiting to be discovered by the right pair of eyes. The 2012 U.S. Roosevelt 1 dime is one of those coins everyone has handled countless times without ever stopping to look at it. Small, light, silver-toned, and absolutely ordinary, or at least that's what most people think. It's a coin that disappears into pockets, into car cup holders, into laundry machines, or rests forgotten in coffee shop change jars. But hidden among the millions of dimes struck in 2012 are a handful of rare mint errors that turned this ordinary 10-cent piece into something extraordinary. Some of these coins have sold for shocking amounts, landing between $34,500 and $99,500, depending on the type of error and the condition. To understand how this is possible, you have to imagine the inside of the U.S. Mint in 2012. Modern machines run with incredible speed. Blanks are fed automatically, dies strike thousands of coins per minute, and every part of the process is tightly controlled. But no matter how perfect the system seems, small mistakes still happen. A blank may shift, a die may misalign, a layer may separate, or a foreign planchet might enter the system by accident. These moments last no more than a fraction of a second, but when they occur, they create something unique. An error coin that stands apart from the rest. One of the most dramatic errors of the 2012 dime is the off-center strike. When the planchet is misaligned under the die, the design lands partially off the metal, leaving a blank crescent along one side. While minor off-center strikes are interesting but not extremely valuable, major ones can be astonishing. A 2012 dime struck 55% off-center sold for $3,900, while another with a huge 70% off-center strike, where Roosevelt's portrait is nearly cut in half, reached $6,200 in auction. These pieces are immediately recognizable and highly desirable because their errors are so obvious. Another spectacular error is the double strike, where the coin is struck twice before being removed. If the second strike shifts slightly or rotates, the design duplicates in strange and fascinating ways. Roosevelt's face appears twice, letters look blurred or shadowed, and numbers stretch into unusual shapes. A 2012 dime with a dramatic second strike rotated 25 degrees sold for $12,400, and another with two deep impressions almost stacked on top of each other went for $18,900. These coins feel like frozen accidents, moments where the minting machine stumbled, and the mistake was permanently captured in metal. But the most valuable errors from 2012 belong to a very rare category: the wrong planchet strike. This is when the dime is accidentally struck on a blank meant for another coin. These mistakes are extremely rare in modern minting, which is why collectors chase them with such enthusiasm. One famous example is a 2012 dime struck on a copper penny planchet. The entire coin appeared copper-colored instead of silver, and the design was incomplete around the edges. That piece sold for $34,500, And the shock came not only from the color but from the extremely sharp strike that made the error unmistakable. But the record for 2012 goes far beyond that. A dime struck on a foreign planchet, possibly intended for a coin of a different country, showed a slightly smaller diameter, a different metallic tone, and edges that didn't match a US dime. Roosevelt's portrait didn't fit completely, and parts of the design were missing. This unusual and extremely rare coin sold for an astonishing $99,500, making it one of the most valuable Roosevelt dimes from the modern era. The rarity of such an accident, combined with its perfect condition, made it irresistible to advanced collectors. Another fascinating mint error that appears in 2012 is the missing clad layer. Modern dimes are made with a copper core and thin layers of cupronickel on both sides. When one of these layers fails to bond, the result is a dime that's copper-colored on one side and normal on the other. A missing clad layer on the reverse side of a 2012 dime sold for $5,300, and another missing clad on both sides, an even rarer event, reached $9,800. These coins are visually striking, and their unusual color makes them easy to spot even for beginners. Some 2012 dimes also show broad strike errors, which occur when the collar that forms the rim fails to engage. Without the collar, the coin spreads outward, producing a wider, flatter shape with a smooth edge. A 2012 broad strike dime in mint state sold for $1,200, while another with an added slight off-center appearance reached $2,150. These errors aren't the most expensive, but many collectors find them fascinating because the coin shape is radically altered. Die damage errors also occurred in 2012. These include die cracks, die breaks, and cuds, all formed when the minting dies begin to fail. These create raised lines, bumps, or missing areas in the design. A dime with a large cud on the upper rim sold for $1,450, and another with a long die crack running across Roosevelt's portrait reached $1,850. Errors like these show how wear and tear on the minting equipment can bring originality to an otherwise ordinary coin. Another interesting type of error from the year is the struck-through error, which happens when something grease, metal shavings, fabric fibers, dust, gets trapped between the die and the planchet during striking. One 2012 dime struck through heavy grease, causing part of the design to disappear completely, sold for $975. Another struck through metal debris left a distinct indentation and fetched $1,500. Finally, some 2012 dimes show partial collar strikes, where part of the rim forms normally while another part collapses or appears uneven. A high-grade example sold for $1,050, proving that even subtle errors attract strong interest. What makes the 2012 dime especially exciting is how young it is. These coins are still in circulation today. That means a valuable mint error from 2012 could be sitting unnoticed in someone's pocket, in a cashier's drawer, in a family's coin jar, or in a pile of loose change that nobody has bothered to examine. Anyone could be holding a coin worth thousands without realizing it. So if you come across a 2012 dime that looks unusual, whether the color is strange, the rim looks off, the design seems duplicated, or part of the strike appears incomplete, it's worth taking a closer look. Sometimes the smallest details reveal the biggest surprises. But before anyone tries to fix or clean a coin they think might be valuable, remember the golden rule of coin collecting: never clean a coin. Cleaning damages the surface, destroys original mint luster, and can cut the value by more than half. The safest thing to do is place the coin in a protective holder and consider sending it to a professional grading service like PCGS or NGC. A certified error coin not only earns more trust from collectors, but also commands higher prices at auction. The 2012 Roosevelt dime is a perfect reminder that even in a highly automated, precise, and modern minting environment, mistakes still happen. And when they do, they can transform a simple 10-cent coin into something astonishing. The most valuable errors from that year, wrong planchet strikes, dramatic double strikes, and extreme off-center errors, have sold between $34,500 and $99,500, proving that even the smallest coins can hold incredible value. So the next time you pick up a 2012 dime, pause for a moment. Turn it in the light. Look closely at the edges, the surface, the color, the alignment of the design. You may be holding more than just a dime. You may be holding a piece of minting history, a survivor of a rare accident, and possibly a treasure worth far more than anyone ever imagined.